A grainy concert video has set the entire internet on fire because people believe it shows a girl who is already dead. But when the FBI stepped in, what they revealed made this case even darker. Imagine a single viral concert video rewriting the entire murder investigation timeline. That's exactly what happened here, and it forced the FBI to finally speak out. One blurry clip, one simple hand gesture, and one terrifying truth that could flip this entire case against David. This isn't just a murder mystery, it's a chilling puzzle you can't look away from. What many thought was Celeste's final sighting, the FBI completely debunked. But if that wasn't her in the video, then who was that girl? And why did David point right at her? Everyone thought this case was simple, a celebrity, a scandal, and a shocking death. But when new concert footage surfaced and the FBI revealed the truth, everything changed. Grainy video from one of David's concerts has set the internet on fire. The clip seems to show a girl who looks almost exactly like Celeste Rivas, and now the FBI has weighed in with a revelation that makes this case even darker. What they uncovered doesn't just shift the timeline, it forces everyone to rethink what really happened and who knew the truth all along. According to investigators, David's girlfriend, 15-year-old Celeste, may have been seen at his concert in early September. This is no small detail. It completely rewrites the timeline of the case. The footage, recorded on September 6th in Silver Spring, Maryland, shows a girl standing in the balcony section of the venue. Her appearance, her build, and even her style bear a striking resemblance to Celeste. If this was truly her, the discovery changes everything. It would mean Celeste was still alive just days before police found David's abandoned Tesla in the Hollywood Hills, with her body inside. What first seemed like another blurry, unreliable video might actually be the piece of evidence that reveals the final days of one of the most chilling celebrity murder cases in recent memory. More footage has since surfaced, reportedly from another Silver Spring concert on August 23rd or 24th. Again, a girl who looks very much like Celeste can be seen on the balcony, watching the show. She wore a black tube top, the same type of clothing she was later found in when her body was discovered. Even her hairstyle matched photos from her missing person reports. For investigators and true crime followers alike, these similarities were impossible to ignore. But there was something else, something even more unsettling. In the concert video, David can be seen pointing directly toward the balcony. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, he forms half of a heart gesture with his hand. For many who later analyzed the footage, that single moment felt chilling. It wasn't just a casual gesture to a random fan, it seemed to carry recognition, intimacy, and a sense of private understanding. To observers, it looked like David was acknowledging someone he knew personally, someone he was deeply connected to. The eerie weight of the scene grew heavier when people noticed who was standing next to the girl. It wasn't just another fan. It was David's own brother. That detail added an entirely new layer of darkness to what was already a disturbing revelation. If the girl really was Celeste, then this wasn't simply a secret relationship hidden from the world. It suggested that at least some members of David's family were aware of her presence, perhaps even complicit in keeping her close to him. This realization raised a flood of questions. Did David's brother know exactly who she was? Did he understand she was underage, or had he been led to believe, like many others, that she was older thanks to fake IDs and carefully crafted lies? And if he did know the truth, then what role did he play in protecting David from scrutiny? These questions not only complicated the case, but also hinted at a web of secrecy and enabling that extended beyond just David himself. For true crime followers, the implications were staggering. If David's family was present and comfortable around Celeste, it tore apart the narrative that theirs was a secret, hidden relationship. Instead, it painted a much more disturbing picture, one where those closest to him may have turned a blind eye to what was happening right in front of them. It suggested complicity, silence, or at the very least, willful ignorance. And in cases of exploitation and grooming, silence can be just as dangerous as direct involvement. The half-heart gesture itself became symbolic in online discussions. Fans and amateur detectives debated its meaning endlessly. Was it proof of a personal bond, a subtle way of saying "I see you and we're connected"? Or was it a simple crowd-pleasing move that was misinterpreted? To many, the presence of David's brother made the former explanation far more convincing. After all, what were the odds that David would single out a random fan in the exact spot where his brother stood and make a gesture that looked so intimate? This moment also shed light on the duality of David's public and private worlds. On stage, he was the rising star, adored by fans, presenting himself as just another young musician chasing success. Off-stage, however, disturbing allegations suggested he was entangled in a relationship with a girl far younger than him, a relationship he knew was both illegal and immoral. The concert footage blurred the line between those two worlds, showing how dangerously close they were to overlapping in public. Even more disturbing was the timeline surrounding the video. This concert took place mere days before Celeste's body was found in David's abandoned Tesla. If the girl on the balcony really was Celeste, then this may have been one of the last times she was seen alive in public. The idea that David not only acknowledged her but shared an intimate gesture in front of a cheering crowd, while she was allegedly living under such dire circumstances, sent shivers down the spines of those who studied the footage. The involvement of David's brother also opened the door to a wider conversation about accountability. If family members or close friends knew about the relationship and did nothing, then how far did the circle of silence go? Was this a carefully guarded family secret, kept behind closed doors, or was it something that only surfaced when investigators began piecing the timeline together? The possibility that others in David's inner circle knew about Celeste raised moral and legal dilemmas. From a psychological standpoint, it suggested David may not have felt the need to hide his behavior completely, because those closest to him were willing to look away. That kind of silent approval can embolden predators, making them feel untouchable and safe from consequences. For investigators, the footage became a critical piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just about whether the girl was Celeste, it was about what the dynamics of that moment revealed. If confirmed, it would show that Celeste wasn't being hidden away in secret motel rooms or kept completely out of sight. She was in plain view at his concerts, standing beside his family members, acknowledged on stage. That suggested a relationship far more integrated into his daily life than many had assumed. On social media, the clip spread rapidly. Some viewers were convinced beyond doubt it was Celeste, pointing to the striking resemblance, her hairstyle, and her clothing. Others raised questions about whether the resemblance was misleading, arguing the girl could be older or simply a fan who happened to look similar. But regardless of the debate, one thing was undeniable. The footage forced people to reconsider just how deep and complex David's alleged relationship with Celeste really was. The half-heart gesture, the brother's presence, the girl's striking resemblance, when put together, they created a haunting picture. It wasn't simply about one sighting, it was about the unsettling possibility that David's secret wasn't so secret after all. That those around him may have known far more than they ever admitted. And if that was the case, then the tragedy of Celeste's story extended beyond her and David. It implicated a broader network of silence, complicity, and failure to protect a vulnerable young girl. As the case unfolded, this single moment in the concert video remained a turning point. It highlighted how one small gesture, captured in a grainy clip, could reveal so much about power, about silence, and about the chilling possibility that Celeste's cries for help had been overlooked by the very people who should have protected her most. The timing makes this detail all the more unsettling. The concert where David was seen pointing toward the balcony took place only about 12 days before Celeste's body was discovered inside his abandoned Tesla. The discovery itself was horrifying. Her body had been wrapped in plastic, locked in the trunk, and left to deteriorate in the sweltering Los Angeles heat. By the time police opened the car, the remains were in such an advanced state of decomposition that even seasoned investigators described the scene as haunting. This led to a disturbing question that quickly circulated both online and among experts. Could a body truly decompose to that degree in less than 2 weeks? At first glance, the timeline seemed almost impossible. Advanced decomposition is usually associated with bodies left for much longer periods, not a mere dozen days. The discrepancy raised doubts about whether the official timeline was accurate and whether Celeste had died closer to the concert or long before it. Forensic specialists, however, noted that certain conditions can accelerate decomposition dramatically. Los Angeles in September is notoriously hot, with temperatures often soaring above 90 degrees. Inside the sealed trunk of a car, with no ventilation and heat magnified by direct sunlight, conditions would have been even more extreme, more like an oven than a simple vehicle. Add to this the fact that Celeste's body was wrapped in plastic, trapping in moisture and bacteria, and you have an environment that could easily speed up decay at an alarming rate. Even so, the short time frame left many unsettled. If the body had decayed so rapidly, then every detail of Celeste's last days mattered all the more. Had she truly been alive at the time of the concert, or was the girl in the balcony someone else entirely? If it was her, then the advanced decomposition could be explained by the brutal environmental conditions. If not, then perhaps Celeste had died earlier, and the concert footage was a tragic red herring that distracted from the real timeline. This tension between forensic science and public speculation fueled even more conspiracy theories. Some believed the body had been moved, perhaps stored elsewhere before being placed in the car. Others argued that decomposition science, while reliable, cannot perfectly predict how quickly a body will break down under extreme circumstances. In the end, decomposition is influenced by dozens of factors: temperature, humidity, insect activity, the type of material the body is wrapped in, and even the person's own health at the time of death. What was undeniable, however, was that the short gap between the concert and the discovery raised troubling implications. If Celeste was indeed alive at that performance, it meant she died and was hidden almost immediately afterward. The nearness of these two events made the case feel even more urgent and haunting. Each detail, from the heat of the Los Angeles sun to the plastic she was wrapped in, became not just evidence, but part of a grim timeline investigators were desperately trying to piece together. As the footage circulated, amateur investigators and online sleuths dissected every frame, studying facial features, body language, and clothing. Many were convinced it was Celeste. She looked comfortable in the environment, as if she'd been to David's shows before and knew her way around. Yet skeptics pushed back, arguing the girl appeared slightly older, taller, and heavier than Celeste's official description. These doubts opened cracks in what some thought was ironclad evidence. Even so, the implications remained disturbing. If the girl in the footage really was Celeste, then she was alive and seen in public just days before her body was discovered. That would mean she wasn't some distant victim. She was still present, still connected to David, and perhaps still in his care until the very end. The case that once seemed straightforward is now tangled in timelines, evidence, and unanswered questions. And as the videos continue to be analyzed, one chilling reality grows harder to escape. The truth about Celeste's final days may have been hiding in plain sight all along. At first, the concert video looked like a turning point in the case. If the girl in the footage really was Celeste, it would have changed everything, shifting the investigation from a missing persons case with suspicious circumstances to a direct murder inquiry with David at the center. It also raised uncomfortable questions. If Celeste was truly at his shows, openly seen and even acknowledged by David on stage, was their relationship far more public than anyone had thought? For months, people had assumed their connection was secret and hidden. But this footage suggested either David was reckless enough to flaunt it, or that there were sides of their relationship the public never understood. Online, theories exploded. Amateur sleuths compared screenshots, zoomed in on blurry frames, and matched outfits and hairstyles. To many, this wasn't just a video, it was potentially the last proof of Celeste alive. The emotional weight behind the speculation was enormous. And then the bombshell dropped. The FBI stepped in and delivered a definitive answer. The girl in the concert footage was not Celeste Rivas. The revelation didn't come from gossip blogs or local police. It came from sources directly tied to the federal investigation. TMZ, which had first spread the video theory, quickly updated its reporting. Their article flat out stated that, according to a trusted source connected to the case, the girl was not Celeste. It wasn't speculation. It was a final word. This meant federal investigators had already examined the footage carefully, likely using advanced tools, expert analysis, and even facial recognition. And what they found left no room for doubt. But this debunking created a new, unsettling layer. If it wasn't Celeste in the videos, then who is this girl that David appeared to acknowledge from the stage? And why did she look so much like Celeste? The idea that David might have surrounded himself with a lookalike, while Celeste was already gone unsettled even the most seasoned true crime followers. It hinted at something darker about his mindset. Was he mocking investigators, trying to confuse the timeline, or acting out a psychological compulsion? The timeline only made it creepier. Celeste had vanished in April 2024, reported missing at just 13 years old. By the time David was performing in August 2025, she had been gone for more than a year. If he was responsible for her death, then publicly pointing to someone resembling her was deeply sinister. Federal authorities didn't stop at dismissing the footage. They also suggested they had stronger evidence placing Celeste elsewhere in her final days. That could mean digital records, witness statements, or forensic details that paint a clear, undisputable timeline. The FBI doesn't usually step in unless there are federal crimes at play, like trafficking, kidnapping across state lines, or murder involving multiple jurisdictions. David's tours spanned several states, which only added weight to the seriousness of the investigation. The case also highlighted the dangers of social media speculation. Thousands of people had convinced themselves they were seeing Celeste in the video. But professional investigators, with better tools and evidence, proved otherwise. It was a reminder of how quickly misinformation can spread and how easily public opinion can get ahead of the facts. For David's defense, this debunking cut both ways. On one hand, it removed a piece of evidence that could have tied him directly to Celeste near the time of her death. On the other, it painted him in an even stranger light, especially if prosecutors argue he deliberately sought out girls who resembled her. Meanwhile, Celeste's family was left devastated. For them, the footage had offered a glimmer of hope, a possible final sighting that could help fill in the missing pieces of her story. The FBI's statement ripped that away, leaving them once again in painful uncertainty. Assaulted not only by David, but also by someone named Gus, an associate who turned up dead in 2024, while Celeste was still missing. His death raised chilling questions. Was he silenced before he could talk to investigators? Was there a broader network of people involved in exploiting Celeste? Meanwhile, David's public behavior only made things look worse. Instead of withdrawing or showing guilt while Celeste was missing, he kept touring, performing, and surrounding himself with women who resembled her. To many, this didn't just show a lack of empathy, it suggested something compulsive, maybe even predatory. Law enforcement took the case seriously enough to raid David's Hollywood Hills home, looking for blood evidence and other forensic links to Celeste. They seized electronic devices and possibly security footage, which could prove vital in reconstructing the timeline of her final days. Even David's music came under new scrutiny. Songs like Romantic Homicide suddenly sounded different, laced with themes of control and violence. Fans noted that he uploaded that very track on Celeste's birthday. Whether coincidence or not, it sparked speculation that his art may have doubled as a confession. At the same time, the internet was both a tool and a weapon. The same digital spaces that allowed David to hide and manipulate Celeste also gave rise to misinformation, like the false concert sighting. Social media sleuthing may feel empowering, but as this case showed, speculation can spread faster than facts and sometimes distract from real evidence. Professionally, David's world was collapsing. Tours canceled, sponsorships pulled, and his label stepping back, all signals that even those closest to him believed the allegations carried serious weight. But compared to the legal consequences he could face, murder charges, trafficking violations, life in prison, career fallout was the least of his worries. For Celeste's family, the debunking of the concert footage was devastating. They had briefly held onto the hope that the video showed their daughter alive in her final days. That hope was crushed, leaving them once again in the painful void of unanswered questions. In truth, this case may stretch far beyond Celeste alone. Patterns of grooming, the role of accomplices, and the possibility of multiple victims suggest something larger, darker, and more systemic. Instead of closure, the so-called look-alike revelation has opened up a maze of new questions about David's state of mind, the extent of his alleged crimes, and how someone could maintain a polished public image while hiding such horrifying secrets. And until investigators reveal the full story, the world is left staring at a disturbing paradox: a young artist celebrated for his music, and the possibility that behind that fame lay a carefully hidden trail of exploitation, manipulation, and tragedy.